Yeah, so what feature, how are we going to use that graphing calculator to help us figure out which equation is right, though?
Put in point.
Okay, plot that point, right? Open parentheses, 3, 2, Dewan, are you doing this? Y'all, we had a weekend to rest and relax. Right now it's time to work and learn.
And I feel like no weekend.
I mean, it was 2 days off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you see me for 2 days?
Yeah. Don't feel like it. Yeah, I do.
Well, we need to get more sleep then. Okay, so we got our point 3, 2. Now, here's the thing. Is 3, 2 the only information given?
No.
No.
The intercept.
We got an intercept? What intercept?
I mean, not intercept. Slope.
We got slope, okay.
4.
And so we somehow need to use that to help us figure out the equation, but how are we going to use that slope of 4 here?
We put it.
Do you think we can just put that slope somewhere in?
We can. Don't we have to write? Can we just try one of those equations?
You could, but how are you going to know if you have the right equation with the right slope?
We're gonna line up on the graph.
Line up with what? You only have 1 point. Okay, so we need to recognize.
So we can use 4 to go up to create more points on the graph.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for. We need to recognize that slope, right, can help us find more points because slope of 4. That 4 is my what?
Rise.
Rise. I feel like I'm missing something though.
Divided by run.
Divided by run.
Which is 1.
So if there's nothing there, we understand that it's a 1. Okay, so let's use that rise, let's use that run to find some more points. P.S. I don't know if you need it, but you can always use other representations to help you find it as well, more easily maybe. But let's find another point on there. Come on, Dewan. Type your point. Follow along. You especially need this problem because we're missing that completely in the grade book. How'd you get 5, 4?
1 and 4.
Show me.
1, 2. Ooh.
Yeah, I think that was up 2.
Oh,
You're up 4. I don't know. I see where you typed the 0.41, but remember that's a rise of 4 and a run of 1. Up 1, 2, 3, 4. To the right 1. That's where you should be looking. That's an x of 4 and a y of 6. Notice that's a rise of 4 and a run of 1. And you can keep that going, right? So there's 6, so 7 will be here, 8. So 7 to, or 1, 2, 3. No, I messed up. 1, 2, 3, 4. To the right 1. Notice that would be what, 5, 10? Check that out. Now I do want to remind y'all, because I will say you're making your life a little bit harder than it has to, or has to be. What are you doing? No. Go to your settings. Change your axes. Negative 10 to 10 with a step of 1. And negative 10 to 10 with a step of 1. There you go.
How you change those settings?
There's a little wrench symbol. You can change your scaling there. You're fine. Do you just want to go by ones though? Because if you want that, you can. It's called the step. Notice that tells the calculator what to go by. Okay, so we should have some points at this point in the deal. This is what I meant to tell you, or point out to you. What's another mathematical representation that you could use?
My whole thing.
Y'all got 5 people in here. When I'm talking, I need you to stop for a second. I need you to listen up. Hold on.
I did something, it made me X out the page.
Oh, gotcha.
Alright, you said.
Is that going up 4 into the right one, Bill? Alright, everyone stop, everyone listen. What is a mathematical representation that we could have used to make sure that we were finding correct points?
So it will be 4.
What is a mathematical representation? Could you use a table here?
Yeah.
Because notice, and these are things we want to recognize, is that we can make our job easier. Instead of looking on that graph, because sometimes it's easy to see on the graph, sometimes it's not. Notice we're rising 4. We recognize that. If we're rising, is that an X or a Y value?
I mean, why?
So raise your hand if you think rise is a Y. Raise your hand if you're not paying attention. 60% of us. Yeah, I know you're not paying attention.
I raise my hand.
Raise your hand if you think your rise is a Y. I've got 2 up here. 3, 4, 5. Cool. Rise is a Y. So that means I'm adding 4 here, which gives me a 6. Which means I'm running how much? 1, which is my X, which gives me a 4. Those of us who checked it, did we have the point 4, 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can keep that going as well. 5, 10. I can even go backwards to make sure I'm getting good points as well. I'm just going to have to subtract if I'm going backwards. And I get -2. Subtract 1 and I get a +2. But notice that negative divided by a negative is still a what?
I think my graph is different.
It's not. I'll come look at it in a second. But once you have some points, what could you do to figure out the right equation? You can plug each of those equations in, right? Start graphing those equations, just typing it out to see if you have the right, or to see what the right equation is. Yep. It's right there, bud.
But it ain't rising.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, you can't.
Over 1.
Okay.
Look. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay?
It's kind of small.
But those small ones aren't ones. Right? So type in those, CJ, you know we're talking about those equations that are answer choices for number 40, right? Yeah. Guys, type out your equations, or the equations that are answer choices in number 40 to figure out which one is the correct one. 4, 5 is not a point on that table.
No.
Nor does 4, 5 fall in that line.
No, I'll do it.
I know another one.
I'll plug something in, but then I got.
I need you focusing on the equations right now. I'm glad that you know them, but I need you focusing on the equations to figure out which one you think is right.
You heard me now? I said I'll plug stuff in this time.
I need you to pay attention to what I'm asking you to do, though.
Okay.
So, x minus 4y equals 10. You go there. Go on, what are you doing, man?
Oh, I had put in another point.
Stop. Follow directions. Mr. Kenny, I don't understand. You're right, because you're not doing what I asked you to do. And that should be a comma if you're going to make it another point. Type out those equations. Did we find the right equation? Which one? D. How do you know D is the right equation? That line goes through all those points, right?
Yeah.
And every point should make the equation true, right? So we should have an equation that goes through those points. Now, here's the thing. We were able to use Desmos to quickly graph and to quickly check to give us the right answer. Personally, I'm not going to start there, though. I might check myself with Desmos, or I might do it if I'm completely stuck and I don't know anything else to do. But look at the problem for number 40. What information are you given? Where should you start? You got a point, and what else?
Slope.
And a slope. So where should you start?
Yes, sir.
And these are the things, like, we've got the answer already, so we know whether we get this right or not, but we should start with point slope. My slope is 4, x minus 3 plus 2. And then we know which equation are we trying to get to, which form?
So is it?
Point slope. Well, slope intercept.
That's slope intercept, is that what that looks like?
No.
No. That's standard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ax plus by equals c.
True.
On the graphic organizer, does it have some notes about how to go from point slope to standard?
We just wrote.
We just wrote them, right? It talked about the fact that we should simplify first, distribute, combine like terms. And then, so we got to slope intercept, now we want standard, but I made the note of, hey, we should not have an x on the right-hand side like we do here. So I'm going to subtract 4x. That gives me a 0. Negative 4x plus y is equal to negative 10. Notice that's very close to what we have here, but I also made the note that a should be a whole number, meaning that this needs to be what?
4.
A positive 4.
Yes.
So you can multiply by negative 1. Negative times negative?
4.
Positive 4. Negative 1 times y?
Why?
Is that what we see in D?
Mm-hmm.
So we already had the right equation. Now, should you explain this, justifying it?
Yes.
Yes, but like, that should help us feel confident that we have the right answer. Or at least get some credit because you're showing me that you know how to use your resources. Now, really quickly, I want to look at number 30 before we look at what our homework was from. In number 30 it says, if EY divided by N plus K is equal to T, what is Y in the terms of E, N, K, and T? Which resource are you going to use for an equation like this? Symbolab, right? It's asking us to solve. Now, literally, we need to recognize that we're trying to solve an equation. We're trying to solve for Y, getting it on its own. Do you remember which?
Solve for.
Solve for, right? We're trying to solve for a variable. So solve for. And then you need to indicate the variable you're trying to solve for. We're trying to solve for Y.
Can you erase that for me? Like the problem so I don't get mixed up. Thank you.
Trying to make sure if anyone needed the notes, they could get it. But solve for Y. Just, you have to be careful. Make sure you put that comma after the variable. And then you just write out the equation you have. EY divided by N plus K is equal to T. And that Symbolab will, 1, tell you what Y is equal to. But 2, it'll also give you steps, right? So what is your job? To justify. You have to explain it. Now I do want you to notice, if you look at Symbolab, this is the equation they give you. Is that equation one of the 4 answer choices?
No.
Not exactly. Are there any of those answer choices that would be equivalent to this though?
It's like input is not.
First
valid.
off, that's
No.
a plus.
Oh no,
That's
B,
a minus.
B.
B. I only see Tn. Here I have n being multiplied by k as well.
Yeah, but there you go.
What about D? If I distribute, what's n times t? Nt. What's n times k?
Yeah.
So is that equivalent?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's look at this really quickly. Now, number 7. First off, this should kind of freak you out. That's okay. There's a reason that we're using these resources. What's different about number 7?
It doesn't have.
It's just an x, right? But this is still valid. Which resource could you use? Oh, by the way, this is off the inequality sheet that where your homework came from. So, which resource should you use? You said what? Desmos, right? Trey's saying Desmos. Go on, why would Desmos make sense here?
Because you could graph it.
You're trying to graph it, right? Type x is less than -5 in your graphing calculator. Type it into Desmos. And don't forget, there are apps for this on your phones as well if you can't access it.
So,
Yeah, get rid of those. No, stop doing that.
wait, we supposed to do 7 too?
No,
Okay.
not yet. We're going to try to look at it today. So type in x is less than -5.
I know, cause 11 was like that. too.
Yep, it was. So when we type in x is less than -5, what should we see?
Like
A
it's
line.
on a 6 and it's a dash line and it's shaded to the left.
So what type of line is it?
Dash line.
A dash line, but what direction
Hey,
is it?
Chris. If you're interested in working
It's
on
not
the
X,
proof
it's
of
less than,
your
buddy.
department's upcoming Polarities show, the 25th annual Putney County Spelling Bee,
You shade to
James
the
Jones
left.
for application in room
So first,
06
but
by
first off,
today.
what direction is that line going?
January free
Up.
is now available.
It's
in
going
Atlanta.
up.
If you're interested in receiving your free copy
No.
of
It's
Qualified
going up.
Certificate
What direction is the
or
line
be sure to stop by
going?
my
The boundary
office,
line.
Mr. Penn or Ms. Spiner.
So vertical.
Copies are limited and
Now,
available.
why would that vertical boundary line
School
be
fair will
dashed?
be Monday, February 1st in the
Because it's
theater.
not
Look for the schedules
equivalent.
hanging around the school
Not.
for your time slot.
It's not equivalent, not,
Shifts state scholarship
Solution.
applications is open.
well, it's not, so
Yeah,
the
Thank you.
boundary
Have a great
line doesn't have solutions. We know it doesn't have solutions because it's not that it's not equivalent, it's that it's not equal to. Right? You see how it's just less than? So if it was less than or equal to, it has solutions on that boundary line and we would make it solid. And in which direction are we shading?
To the left.
To the left.
To the left.
Why would to the left make sense?
Because everything
Is less than. Notice if I pick this point right here, -6, 0. Does it matter what the y value is?
No.
No. Just -6 is less than -5. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah. Am I shading solutions?
Yes.
Yes. If I look over here, it's -1, 3. Again, x is -1. Is -1 less than -5?
No.
So that is false. Right, so we shade the solutions and we do not shade things that do not make the inequality true. So, really quickly, I need to talk about this. Remember, you have Desmos at home. Why is this line vertical? What is this point?
Yeah.
It's
-5, comma.
0.
What is this point?
-6.
-5, comma 4, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
What's this point?
Which one?
-5.
-5.
-2.
-2.
What does every point here have in common? -5.
The x is
What is
-5.
the what?
X is -5.
So remember, a boundary line only looks at the equation. X is equal to -5. Every point there has an x value of -5. So if I were to give you something like y equals 2, first off, which direction do you think that line would be?
Then why do it say less than? I mean greater.
Well, the less than tells me which direction to shade. The equal to tells me what the boundary line is. Remember how the boundary line is always an equation? That's what you want to pay attention to. But if it was y equals 2, which direction would that line go?
To the right.
Well, so horizontally,
Wait.
and every point on that line would have a y value of
To
Wait.
2.
So if it's equal to, we have a dotted line.
No, notice how it's less than. So that's why it's dashed. Remember, we look at the equation for the boundary line. You always look at the equation for the boundary line. All right, here's your homework. Make sure you take a picture of it if you need it. Do note, your job is to justify the boundary line. Why is the boundary line the correct boundary line? Why is it dashed? Why is it solid? And then why are the solutions the solutions? I will get your laptops because the bell already rang, so you can go ahead and get out of here. Does that look like a line to you? How are you getting those points?
My name is the one
Type that inequality into
I
that.
got dreads in my head. I'm wearing some forces and a green shirt.
There's two different ways to get it. Hit shift and then less than, and then hit equals to. Nope, there you go. See how it automatically made it less than or equal to? So you can do that, and then put your -15. Does that look anything like this? Nope.
I didn't know how to do that.
Desmos!
No, like, for example, like I thought I was going to do something. Like I did that, and then I would like do that.
You do it separately? No, it's one inequality. Does that make sense now, though? Okay, so make sure you're doing that, and so pay attention to, so like there's a couple of things I would pay attention to on this one. First off, right, you have standard. Could you make it into slope-intercept though? Remember, that's what this graphic organizer is about, is, okay, how to go from standard to slope-intercept. So you could then find your y-intercept and your slope. You could do that. Also, look at your x-intercept, look at your y-intercept. I believe you should have notes here about how to graph the line or boundary line from the format, from standard form. See how where you have information about x and y-intercepts? So, because if you have a y-intercept, you always know that x is 0. So you can now find y. If you have an x-intercept, you always know that y is what? So then you can plug that y value 0 in and find your x. If you're struggling with that, what resource can you go to online? Right? Also, don't forget, if you're struggling to do these things on Desmos or Symbolab, you can come into Schoology, or come into tutoring, or you can just Google information. Hey, how do I do this thing in Desmos? How do I do this thing in Symbolab, okay? Let's get your 3 homework problems done. Do you need to take a picture or you have it circled? Okay, do you know